And there we go, live on YouTube. Susan Michelle, this mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michelle in Western Massachusetts. It is so great to be here as always. I'm the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. And I have my good friend Myrna Skolder here in Florida. She is the author of Private Lessons with Jesus, a wonderful companion to the Course in Miracles workbook for students. How are you today, Myrna?
Very well now. Thank you. When I say
Good. I know
yeah.
Myrna just came back from a cruise. We missed you, Myrna. It's so great to have you back and hear your beautiful voice.
That's the problem. My voice is not so beautiful, but I'll try. It
Okay.
comes and goes, everybody on the shift got sick. I mean, everyone. And some people came equipped with their own, people travel and they come medications. So they're ahead of the game. The rest of us had to run to, they call them apothecaries or drugstores in the United States and trying to, find, we could get antibiotics, coffee medication, that sort of thing. But we're okay, everything worked out fine. And it's good to be back and well on my way and enjoying the familiarity with my friends on Gather and seeing your lovely face. So it's nice to be back.
It's nice to have you back. Um, I guess I will start out with the introduction of my book, Surrender to Joy. And what I write in my introduction is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. There is nothing to find in the world because there is no world. The world we see and experience is nothing more than a reflection of our internal belief system. And what I was listening to today on Audible at the gym, I was very drawn to Ken Wapnick because I know he's such a beautiful, clear Course in Miracles instructor. He passed approximately 10 years ago, I believe, but he was a good friend of Helen Schuckman. And the book that I was listening to today is entitled Living A Course in Miracles, Applying the Course Messages of Wisdom, Courage, and Forgiveness. And he started out by talking about all the ways that the Course is misinterpreted, which I thought was very interesting. He says some people go to funerals or they go to places of grief and they just start chanting, well, it's not real, it's not real, there is no body, it's not real. I mean, even lesson 204, which I believe is today's lesson, basically reiterates the fact that I am not a body, I am free, for I am as God created me. And I believe that, but at the same time, we're here in human form to learn certain lessons. So, in my opinion, and in Ken Wapnick's opinion, when he was speaking, we do need to honor everything that we have here on this earthly plane, in this earthly classroom. I think to really learn the lessons that our soul needs to learn, there's a balance. We don't want to deny reality, but at the same time, we need to understand that the truth of who we are is spirit. So the subject that I thought we could delve into a little deeper today was bringing the darkness to the light. And this is what Ken Wapnick started talking about in his book, in his Audible book. And this was also the first line that I received from an email from John Mundy. John Mundy quoted Ken Wapnick in the beginning of his email. It was a few weeks ago. The subject of the email is bringing darkness to light. And what Ken Wapnick said is, he said, this is a course in bringing the darkness to the light, not in bringing light to cover over the darkness. I used to think it was a very similar thing. Well, you can either bring the darkness to the light to release it, or you can bring the light to the darkness to shine away the darkness. But then I started doing a little research. I went to A Course in Miracles Now.com and I punched darkness in the search bar. And the passages that came up were all about bringing the darkness to the light. So we need to, I believe, bring our pain points to the surface in order for healing to occur. So when life triggers us, in order to transcend those triggers, we don't want to deny the pain. I think that's called spiritual bypassing. We don't want to deny the pain. We want to allow ourselves to feel the pain, but only so we can release the pain to the Holy Spirit and we can clear our channel. Any thoughts, Myrna?
I think that's why the Course in Miracles gives us these lessons, so that we can understand what you just said, feeling, if we feel pain, because pain is such a part of a large part of the ego's deceptive qualities, that we feel pain, whereas the Course in Miracles tells us there is no pain. So if there is no pain and we're feeling it, then all we can really do, the best we can do, is bring that pain that we've so-called pain feeling, and bring it to the part of us that can feel no pain, the part of us that's connected to God. And that's what we become adept at when we understand that we don't need to really feel pain. We bring it on ourselves. At one point, I remember even during my trip, I was feeling a bit of pain about something. And it just happens that the phrase that came across my phone, because I have the Course in Miracles everywhere on my phone, it's on, it was with me. And the phrase that came across my phone was, "It is only myself that I crucify." And wow, that was so perfect. That was an affirmation that brought me to truth right then and there. It is only myself that I crucify. So I'm doing this to myself. So we have to constantly be aware of the fact that that we're doing it to ourselves, that pain is needless. And I think that the more we practice letting go of it, the more adept we become at doing it, the more it becomes a part of us, a way of recognizing that we need not go through a day, conjuring up whatever it is that's causing the pain. And if we remain connected to the present, to spirit, and letting the love in, letting that love come in and feeling it, it can dissipate anything. So that's the way I really feel about pain, learning to let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Because pain is not of God. Pain is of the ego. So when I'm feeling pain, when I'm feeling angst, when I'm feeling stress, I'm not aligned with my higher self. I'm basically connected to the ego, and I'm disconnected from God. However, there is kind of a catch 22, in my opinion, because on one hand, it's not real. But on the other hand, we kind of have to step into the pain in order to get to the other side of the pain. In my book here, Surrender to Joy, chapter number 2 talks about sitting with, well, the title of chapter number 2 is Sitting with Pain to Feel Our Joy. And I quoted Oriah Mountain Dreamer's invitation poem. The first line that I quoted, which comes from the middle of the poem, I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without trying to hide it or fade it or fix it. And it's not real. I completely agree with that, but we can't just like push it down. We kind of have to sit with it in order to realize that it has no power over us, because as Carl Jung said, what we resist persists. So if we keep resisting the pain is going to really exacerbate itself. At least that's been my experience in this lifetime. I grew up in a family that was extremely uncomfortable with uncomfortable emotions. So whenever I felt anything other than happiness, whenever I felt sad, whenever I felt angry, whenever I felt insecure, my parents felt very uncomfortable with that, and they would not allow me to express it. So I ended up bottling up a lot of feelings internally. And that ultimately led to a lot of depression, because bottling up feelings is not of God. When we project them onto people and external circumstances, well, that causes fights. That's not healthy. But when we internalize them, it leads to disease and depression. So basically, I believe what we need to do is just sit with them, give them to the Holy Spirit, and then let them release. That's what kind of clears our channel. That's how we transcend our triggers. And then here in the next line, I said in my book, in chapter 2, I wrote, why would we want to sit with anyone else's pain, much less our own? It certainly doesn't sound like a fun invitation. On the other hand, pain does not go away simply because we decide to ignore or deny it. Instead, it directly interferes with our ability to feel anything else. Where there is repressed pain, there can be no room for happiness, comfort, love, peace, and most certainly no room for joy. And then I wrote the next lines of Oriah's poem after the pain. Oriah Mountain Dreamer writes in the invitation, I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes, without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. And I think in my life, that's how my life has worked. That is like what I've experienced so many times. Once I get triggered by life, once I allow myself to feel the feeling behind the trigger without blame, without judgment, then I feel like my channels are clear and I can more connect to the peace, love, joy, and happiness of God. I can more so connect to the truth of who I am. So this earthly classroom for me, I know Course in Miracles is a non-dualistic thought system. Only the love is real. However, certain pain points that are hidden in my unconscious mind need to surface in order to be released. And that has happened numerous times. It's actually in the process of happening right now again. I'm feeling some sadness after leaving the job that I worked for a year and a half. So I'm just doing my best to sit with that sadness until the new chapter opens up for me.
Yeah, we talk about pain. It brought me to lesson 190. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I agree with you. Pushing the pain down is not really where it should go. It needs to be released. And to learn the difference is really what takes years to do. It doesn't just happen overnight. The recognition that we can release the pain rather than adhere to it. And I've really given that part of myself a lot of attention. Pain is a very interesting, for me, aspect of my learning, because whether it be physical, emotional, it really is pretty much the same thing. And I suffered a lot of emotional pain. Not much, luckily, not much in the way of the physical. I remember recently discussing that with a friend of mine. I think that I never really get into pain is because as a young child, I was taught not to get sick. I just, I was taught that. If I complained about an earache, my mother would yell at me and say, it's because you didn't wear a hat today. See, you didn't wear a hat. Now you got an earache, so it was my fault. And that sort of thing. I recognized at a very early age that I wasn't going to get agreement about my illnesses. And I grew up really pretty much never getting sick. And I have to knock wood that as an adult, I'm complaining about a sore throat. It's not a sore throat. I mean, it was just what recently happened was I was on the ship and there was something going around. Everybody caught it, but I got rid of it pretty relatively quick. I mean, I went on all the excursions. I went on all the different tours that were being given us, and so I really didn't nothing was withheld from me. So I found that I was focused as I was getting older. And into my young adult years, and even a little further than that, I was experiencing a lot of emotional pain. And that manifests if you don't deal with that the same as physical pain. It's just a matter of where the pain is settling. So I took the Course in Miracles to make me see that not to, withhold it, but to release it. Not to push it away, to face it, to see it, to understand that it's my doing and that I don't have to hold the past against myself or anybody. And for me, a lot of that's where the pain was coming into, from that place in myself that couldn't let go of the past. And it was the Course in Miracles that taught me that I must let go of the past and, to see our brothers as equals.
And you mentioned lesson 190, and I went to your book, Myrna. I went to your book, Private Lessons with Jesus, and I opened it up. And I opened up like instantaneously to your lesson 190. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I mean, for me, again, it's like we have free choice. So when we side with the ego, there's going to be stress, there's going to be angst. When we align ourselves with the Holy Spirit, then we're connected with the truth of who and what we are. We're connected with our joy. So to be able to choose the joy of God more and more often is really what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do. There's numerous affirmations that I say to myself that bring me closer to the truth of who I am. One huge one is Course in Miracles says, analyzation is of the ego, acceptance is of the Holy Spirit. So an affirmation that I use daily, to bring me closer to peace is I accept everything in my life exactly as it is right now. Everything in my life, my age, my living space, my life is exactly as it is supposed to be right here, right now. And that brings so much calm and serenity to my mind. I think that's a big tool I used when I was quitting smoking. Whenever I would crave a cigarette, I would say, what if everything is just, or everything is just perfect right here, right now? And it would take away my nicotine craving, and it would take away any angst that I had. I skimmed over what you wrote in your book here under lesson 190, and it's very, very beautiful. 190, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Can I read a little bit of your lesson, Myrna?
Please. Yeah.
Okay, because this is channeled through you from Jesus. You have already learned that joy is more rewarding than pain. The world's way of thinking is the belief that happiness comes from material things, having no bearing on what is real and lasting. You have suffered pain at the behest of others in countless ways, giving credence to these beliefs. At times, pain hides beneath the surface so discreetly, you might hardly regard it as significant. That's such a great line there, because we can't repress the pain. We can't deny the pain. We want to release the pain. And there's a big difference, Here, to go back to your lesson, you wrote, or it can show up in deadly reprisal, feeling exceedingly wicked. Either way, pain is pain. This is not the way God would have you thrive, yet you chose suffering over God's peace many times over. Such is the ego's way of projecting as it fights to protect its insane thought system, pain being its main attraction. Writing your daily lessons keeps your mind directed inward towards peace. This does not come from the material world. Lasting joy comes from within. To master the present moment is where God's love awaits you. Start each day with the recognition that God remains with you, and pain, when it arises, can quickly be diverted by staying presently connected. The ego has no power to hold you hostage. Stay with thoughts of God and feel the peace it brings throughout your day. That's very wise, very intuitive. Obviously, it's coming from Jesus. It's amazing that you channeled this. I mean, it's like, for me, there's a lot that it's saying, but that peace of God, and this is like a pretty regular recognition that's coming up for me lately, that I have to connect to that place within before I can enjoy anything in the world. It's because what I'm searching for is not external. I can't like think that something on the outside is going to make me feel better on the inside if I'm coming from a place of lack. It's to connect to that internal source first, and then go into the world to share it. And I'm just becoming acutely aware of that fact. that's living from the inside out as opposed to living from the outside in. On Saturday, my sister came down from Boxborough, Massachusetts. It's about an hour and a half away from where I live in Springfield. We met in Northampton, and we took a boat outing together. My sister, myself, my husband, her husband, and she has 2 dogs. And I remember the last time we took a boat outing last summer, uh, there was a lot of triggers that happened for some reason. There were a lot of triggers. And this year, I prayed and I meditated in the morning, and I felt like I was in a pretty peaceful, happy place. And the outing on the boat just reflected that back to me. And I knew that I started the day, just really focusing on all the love that was within me. So I enjoyed my time with my sister. I felt a lot of love. I felt a lot of connection. I played with her dogs. I did a posting. She has 2 dogs. One is Moose. He's like a little dog. And one is Maisie. She's a big dog, crazy Maisie, and they were just so funny. I did a post because little Moose, the little dog, starts chasing her tail. She just like runs around and around in circles. I don't know how like she does that without like falling over and getting dizzy, but she just ran around in circles for like a minute trying to catch her tail. And then the bigger dog, Maisie, there was a blue stick, a light blue stick, and then we put like a tennis ball type, ball on the top of the stick, and we would throw the ball like far across the beach, and the bigger dog Maisie would run after the ball, and she would bring back the ball to me. But it was so much fun. Like everything was fun, but I knew that I connected with something internally first, because in order to experience any kind of joy in life, you have to connect to something internally first, because life can't make you joyful. I mean, when you go on vacation, it's the same thing. No matter how beautiful the surroundings, if you don't have that internal connection, you're not going to enjoy any of that. And that's happened to me time and time again, because our happiness comes from within. Again, just as you so astutely outlined in this lesson 190, I choose the joy of God instead of pain, but it's not, that joy does not come from anything of the world. It just doesn't.
Yes, Susan, that's true. And I'm glad you had so much fun with your sister and her dogs. I'm glad you posted that on Facebook, the dog chasing its tail. It's adorable. Yeah, things they entertain us, and they keep us happy, don't they? Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, yeah. So you had a good time. Sounds nice. Yeah, I miss my sister. So I can understand the joy that you had, connecting with her and, just spending time. But those are the memories you'll always have together, that connection, that sisterly connection is so special. I understand that, never leaves you either. Thank you for reading from my book, by the way, Private Lessons. Yeah, wherever you get that title, whether it be from my excerpts or from the Course in Miracles itself, it says really the same thing, that we have a choice, that we don't need to suffer pain, that we prefer, of course, I prefer God than pain. I prefer the part of me that was given to feel only love and peace, to feel love the way God loves. I mean, it's no matter how you say it, we're choosing it. We're choosing to how we feel, and we're choosing the way to go. I'll read a little bit from the Course in Miracles about that. Just the first paragraph. Pain is a wrong perspective. So I guess we're perceiving pain. It says if it's a wrong perspective, well, perspective comes from perception. So we're perceiving something that doesn't exist. A perception is not a fact. When it is experienced in any form, it is proof of self-deception. So we're not recognizing the truth that we're given to see and to feel if we're suffering pain. It diverts that, takes that away from us. It is not a fact at all. There is no form it takes that will not disappear if seen aright. Now, that's a very powerful sentence. There is no form that will not disappear. So we seem to think that pain differs, comes in, in different stages, different forms, different tiers, so to speak, TIER, platforms, whatever. We seem to feel that one pain is not the same as another. And yet it tells us that it's all the same. So if we can heal from any sort of pain or any form of pain, then it doesn't matter what it is. And I love that. I really do, because it tells us right here, there is no form it takes that will not disappear if seen aright. And we can't see aright on our own. We have to see it from with the help of Spirit, Jesus, God. That's where the truth comes to us. And when we ask for it, it's given to us. I mean, I've come to understand that a long time ago. And when I asked Jesus to help me write private lessons with Jesus, and I said, okay, this is what I'd like to do. Put the title of the lesson into the computer and just tell me what I should be writing. And it was a very amazing learning experience for me. The reason I bring that up is because all we need to do is ask, and we'll get the answers. If we just need whatever they may be. We just have to listen for the answer. And it's not going to come if our mind is muddled with all sorts of ego thoughts circling round and round, keeping us distracted. The only way we can really experience that answer, the truth, whatever it may be, it comes from that connection that we're willing to accept above all else. And everything else really needs to be just put aside. And that moment of connecting with God through a meditation, through whether I ask for it, whether I ask and wait for the answer, whether I listen in quiet, the answer is going to come. It does. And illness, I would assume, is the same thing. I've been fortunate. I never got sick, really. When I say never got sick, I've never really suffered anything what the ego will say is serious. Right now I'm experiencing the healing from a cold, but and that too will pass. But I can tell you that I can understand that. I can believe that. I don't know if I can understand it. The ego understands nothing, but my belief system tells me that that's true. So I can relate to that in that respect. For pain proclaims God cruel. Well, don't we blame God if we're really suffering? Why did God do this to me? What did I do? Why am I suffering? So we're really blaming God. And this sentence tells us, so so I would think that if we're blaming God and we're perceiving a sickness, it's because we really don't believe there's a God. Because if there was a God, he would be very cruel. And that's what this tells us, really. So I'll just finish this paragraph. It witnesses to God the Father's hatred of his Son. It witnesses to God the Father's hatred of his Son, the sinfulness he sees in him, and his insane desire for revenge and death. What does that tell you? That tells us, that of course we're going to run from God if the ego tells us that all of this is true. We're going to think that we are the home of evil, sin, and darkness, guilt, sin, and darkness, whatever that lesson 93 tells us that. Anyway, so it's an interesting and a very in-depth subject, the subject of pain.
Yeah, I mean, A Course in Miracles tells us that God did not create this world, because if he did, that would make him cruel, because there is a lot of pain being demonstrated on this in this earthly classroom. So if you're looking around and seeing solely good, you're really not seeing the world clearly. I guess I got that from Kenneth Wapnick and what I was listening to today. I guess we were in a state of perfect joy, perfect peace, perfect love, perfect happiness. And then we decided we wanted to be special. So we separated from our creator, and now our only desire is to go back home. It's so similar to the Wizard of Oz story, it really is. It's so similar to the Wizard of Oz story. Dorothy had everything she wanted with Auntie M, and then she decided that life was boring and that life would be more fun on the other side of the rainbow. So, I guess in a way, if all thoughts create form on some level, she might have created that experience for herself, right? And she ended up, her and her dog, Toto, smack dab in the land of Oz. And then the moment she got there, her whole goal became trying to get back home. She no longer wanted to be away from home. Now, they say we don't know how much we have till we're taken away from it. She didn't know how, or she didn't realize how good she had it with all the love she said she had at home with her aunt and her uncles, until she was taken away from it. And then the whole story, The Wizard of Oz, is she is trying to get back home. However, she thinks she has to meet the great and powerful Oz before she can get back home. But the truth is, she had the capability of returning home at any time she chose. All she had to do is click her ruby red slippers together 3 times, and she would go home. So we all have that power here on earth. We separated from God because I guess on some level we wanted to feel special. And now that we're here, we're like roaming around. We're trying to find our way back home. We're being chased by the Wicked Witch of the West. Who is the Wicked Witch of the West? That's our ego. The ego seems so prevalent, but really, how did Dorothy defeat the Wicked Witch of the West? Well, she accidentally threw water on her, and she dissipated. She evaporated. She turned to sand. I mean, that's how easy it is for us to get on the other side of our ego. All we need to do is just not focus upon our ego, because A Course in Miracles is telling us that the ego is not real. So the Wicked Witch of the West, or the ego, all we need to do is turn our attention away from it and focus on love, and the ego will evaporate, just like the Wicked Witch of the West. And at any moment that we choose to return to heaven, all we have to do is, again, it's a metaphor. All we have to do is snap our ruby red shoes, our ruby red slippers together 3 times, and we'll be home with God in heaven. That's why, like for me, it's meditation. because meditation helps me to release my pain points. Meditation helps me to remember who I am. Meditation helps me to remember how much love and power and beauty is available to me at each and every moment. As I'm talking about it, I'm kind of feeling it, because again, there's nothing to find in the world. I mean, that love is right here, right now. It's just, we don't have to think about the future and what we want to create tomorrow. We don't have to remember the past. We don't, the good or the bad. We can just release the future, release the past, stay fully present in the moment. And this is where, we have the most access to the peace of God. And that is who we are. And God loves me so much. And then it also says here, which is I found today, it's a really, really powerful paragraph. And because I always say, God needs me as much as I need him. And I've been looking for the paragraph for a long time, and I finally opened up to it today. I have it starred and I have it highlighted. It says here, it's in chapter 11, God or the ego. And Jesus writes, God is as dependent on you as you are on him. God is as dependent on me than I am on him, because his autonomy encompasses yours and is therefore incomplete without it. So it's like I need God in order to feel my own strength. However, God needs me too, because we're part of each other. And the only thing I need to do to connect to him, I don't need to find anything in the world. I just need to stop blocking his love. I just need to release the pain, release the ego. A Course in Miracles cannot teach us the meaning of love, because love is who and what we are. The only thing it can do is it can teach us to identify our pain points. So when the ego rears his illusionary head, I was going to say his ugly head, but when the ego rears his illusionary head, all we need to do is look to the light. And it's a beautiful life when we can just allow it to be. Right, Myrna?
Yeah, I love that you brought in the Course in, the Wizard of Oz. You do that sometimes because it's such a fascinating subject. I must have seen that movie, I don't know, 100 times. And in fact, I don't know if you ever heard of Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
And he had gotten together with Bill Moyer, and they did The Power of Myth. And at one point, the Course in, I keep saying Course in Miracles, I meant The Wizard of Oz is brought to light, and how you can really tell so much about life. The power of myth. The Wizard of Oz is myth, and how much you can learn from it. And I love the way you brought me through that movie again with, you're right, we had to return to love in order to understand, or she had to do that in order to see what she really wanted. And that's what she wanted all along. I mean, she had the love at home. There were difficulties, the Wicked Witch, or actually this horrible person that eventually she saw in the form of a wicked witch was taking away her dog, and it caused her to run away, the fear really caused her to go through that whole episode of learning. She had to learn where she really needed to be the most. And that's, and isn't it true, there's no place like home? The people that love us, the way God loves us. That is, the storytelling behind that is really amazing. I think Joseph Campbell was amazing. I had his tape, as I said, at the time we called it tapes. I suppose you could still get it, just have to ask for it. You can get it in Audible, I'm sure. It's really so interesting. But we learn from different, aspects whether it be a movie, a book, whatever, we venture towards in order to bring it out in us, that sets off that recognition. Wow, that's true. And one thing reminds us of something else, and how that brings the truth to light. I love that you really, brought that little fairy tale into the talk.
Thanks. I know. I just find so much truth in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even when I was younger, I think now that I'm older, I'm realizing, I don't know, I'm digesting, I'm more able to digest and live the message of A Course in Miracles than I could when I was younger. When I was younger, I continuously searched outside of myself for peace, love, joy, and happiness. Now, the most important time of day is really my meditation, because that's when I can embody the truth of who I am. I'm just so aware of the fact that I can't find what I'm looking for externally. It's just impossible. I need to embrace the present moment exactly as it is. I run just about every morning. And this morning I think I ran an extra mile. The weather was so nice, there was no humidity, or not a lot of humidity in the air, and not a lot of bugs. So I ran an extra mile, and at the end and I told you this at the very end of my run, you called me, and to talk about, I guess, our time today here in Pal Talk YouTube. But what I found right next to the door of my car, which I thought was so beautiful, I saw a golden heart-shaped leaf. I know leaves are kind of in the shape of a heart anyway, but it was, just kind of facing me. And it was a beautiful heart-shaped leaf. I actually posted it on social media. And then I put a line. You can add words to your post. I wrote, "Only the love is real." And I think because I had repeated today's lesson, so many times in my mind when I was running, I was able to see the heart-shaped leaf. You know, that's a really good analogy too, because love is all around us. So because I was focusing on love internally, I saw the love externally. I saw the beautiful golden leaf externally. I think if I wasn't focused on love, I probably wouldn't have seen it. I mean, that's how it works. Since everything external is just reflecting our internal state of mind, when we're in a loving place, we can see the love on the outside. So the most important thing to focus upon is the truth of who we are, and when that fear does arise, we just need to know that it has no power over us. I remember I have this one friend who was telling me this story about fear, and it was about this man, and he was alone in a cabin, and all of a sudden he saw a huge snake standing straight up and glaring at him. And he was so scared that he couldn't move. And he continued to just stare at the snake, but the snake never attacked him. The snake just scared him. And I think finally, he just fell asleep. And then when he woke up, the snake was gone. So, I mean, I guess that's something else we need to do. Only the love is real. But when that fear arises, even though it has no power over us, we need to just, stay present with it and it will release itself. It will disappear. It will dissipate. But we don't want to run from it. We just want to like take a look at our fear. And then once we do, we'll realize that it has no power over us, you know? Yeah, I'm like looking in A Course in Miracles now because there's a few places where Jesus writes about the darkness and how we get to the other side of it.
Yeah, Susan, you mentioned finding this heart-shaped leaf that was gold. So that brought me to something that I really treasured. I was very close with my sister, and she passed away in 2019. And so I've had this picture. I'm going to show it to you. So one of the last pictures we took together, she was very ill at that point, was this one. Now, why it's so significant, if you can see it, you see the picture. Look at the position of the sun on my, the position of the sun on my sweater. In the shape
Yeah.
of a heart. See that? It's in the shape of a heart. I mean, I just died when I saw that. That's the sun.
Oh, that's beautiful. I do see it, Myrna. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
It's on your heart,
yeah, it's on my sweater. See
on your
that?
sweater. Yeah, but it's around your heart. I see it
Yes,
around
around
your
my heart,
heart.
and it's the way the sun positioned, that reflection on my sweater. I mean, I've always treasured this picture. So when we find things like that, then you don't just throw them away. You marvel at it because it is a sign. It really is. And this picture always reminds me of what we had together, what we shared together, and the love that was there, And you're right, it's just in that place where my heart is, right over my own heart. So my heart must have been really very much connected to hers. And that to me, that's what, that's the remembrance that I had. So, yeah, it's funny because you mentioned that to me earlier, that you found that heart shape and you stopped to look, reflect with it. So, yeah, so I just wanted to bring that.
That's beautiful. Yeah, the heart-shaped leaf, it was right outside my car door. And again,
Yeah.
I know I would have never seen it if I wasn't focused on the love. Because again, that's how life works. We see
Right.
outside of ourselves what we're focusing on within. And
Yeah.
again, that's why right now my meditations are just so important to me. They're like the most important thing to me. And I really feel the peace of God, during my meditations now. And my husband says, well, it's easy to feel the peace of God when you're quiet in your room and you're not being triggered. It's to maintain that mindset when you go out into the world. And he's right. It is. I don't know if it's easy to tap into that state of love consciousness. It does require discipline, but I guess I know that's the truth of who I am. So it requires discipline to start the day like that. But then when you go into the world to maintain that peaceful place in your mind, I mean, that is the challenge. That's what we're all, especially as Course in Miracles students, um, attempting to do to the best of our ability. Um, Last week, you weren't here, or my last time here on Pal Talk YouTube, I spoke about worshiping Jesus. And I said that Jesus doesn't want us to worship him because when we worship him, we feel separate from him. When we worship him, we feel inferior to him. I think when we worship Jesus, we give our power away. And really what I focus on a lot lately is I focus on like being like him, like embodying the character traits that he exhibited when he was here on this earthly plane. because Jesus was he faced pain, he had a lot of temptations during his journey, on this earthly plane, but he was so tapped into higher consciousness. Like he knew that he was never alone. He knew that all of God's power was available to him at each and every moment. He knew that he wasn't a body. Like today's lesson is, I am not a body, I am free, for I am as God created me. I mean, Jesus really knew that he was not a body. He knew that he didn't need to fear death. I mean, I think he probably was a little fearful going on the cross, but deep down, he knew that he was just spirit and love and light and I've been really focusing on in my own life being like Jesus, because we can awaken in this lifetime. I mean, that's what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do, to do as Jesus did. Jesus, I always think of that line in the Bible, what I have done, you can do also and more. Go thou and do likewise. Jesus wants us to be like him. And I think he was a very joy-filled man. And now he's a joy-filled soul, channeling himself to us through you and your lessons here, your private lessons with Jesus through A Course in Miracles. He's here in non-body form, helping us attain that peace that he attained.
Yes. I always, we have fears, don't we? We have issues that we need to get past. Mine is that I don't like to be alone. I don't like to feel alone. I think that stems from early childhood as well. So I don't, the thought of being alone, and that's one of the fears I think I still have. I once said, I just hope that I outlive the people that I love, because the thought that I'll be left alone, in old age without, that loneliness, and that's something that I talk to Jesus a lot about. The Course in Miracles is, how can we ever feel alone? We're never alone. And that's something that my particular issue is, and that I work on. If I have any fear at all, that's probably the main one. To me, loneliness is very frightening. So you're right. We bring our God into the fold, and that's really where we get the answers. I'm still waiting for the answer for this one. Anyway.
Yeah, A Course in Miracles tells us we're never alone. Jesus knew that he was never alone. So we're never alone. We all have many angels guiding us, and we're never ever alone. So
do you ever feel loneliness, Susan?
I do. But I'm also very well aware that I can't satisfy any feeling of deprivation or loneliness from another person. I have to satisfy that feeling within. I have to rectify, I guess that's the word. I have to rectify that feeling within first before I'm able to connect with someone else. Like, I'm just very aware of that. Yeah, that I have to find that connection to God within before I can feel connected to anyone in the world. Like, I don't know, my soul knows that. I do feel lonely, but I mean, you can be around like a crowd of people. You can be with your lover. You can be with like the person you love more in the world, and you can feel extremely lonely. Or you can be like by yourself and feel connected, because that feeling of connection comes from within. It doesn't come from being with other people. Like I just I'm aware of that. So when I'm feeling lonely, it's because I'm disconnected from my true self. Yeah, I don't know why that's such an important principle for me lately, you know, because in my meditations, I'm alone, but I don't feel lonely. I feel very connected to my higher self. So, um,
Yeah.
anyway, on that note, Myrna, I love you so much. Thank you for bringing that up. What a great talk. It's 4 o'clock, or it's actually 4:02. And as the introduction states, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is the only thing that's real is the love. I love you all. Thank you for being here with me today. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
Thank you so much, Susan and Myrna. Wonderful sharing.